Hey everyone, welcome back to TapRooT TV. We have got a treat for you today.
Yes, we do.
We're going to truly show you what it's like to do an equipment troubleshooting incident in Equifactor.
That's right.
We haven't done that before, I don't think.
I don't think we've actually stepped through how the whole thing works.
Right.
So this would be a good opportunity to kind of put it all together, see how you start your investigation, bring Equifactor into it when you need it, and then finish up your TapRooT investigation.
So obviously we have our Equifactor guru, Ken Reed, here to run us through this.
We'll
So tell us a little
shot.
bit about what we're going to do.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up the software here in a second here, and what we're going to do is just walk through a very simple example that we've used in different contexts. But what I'd like you to kind of get out of this as you're watching this is how you start it, which is just like any other TapRooT investigation, and then when you might bring Equifactor in, and then watch it kind of walk its way through.
Yeah,
So.
and if you happen to be listening to this on our podcast, you can go onto our YouTube page or Facebook, and you'll be able to see the video screen or the computer screen that we're doing this on.
Right. Okay, so I guess we can just shift over and do that then. So we'll just shift over and get in. So I already have a snap chart pulled up here, and this is a very simple snap chart. Oftentimes, this is what your equipment snap charts look like. Not a lot of data. In this particular case, we pulled a pump out of service for an overhaul because it had a problem. It showed up in our testing as having a problem. They sent it up to the shop to rebuild it. They after the rebuild, they reinstalled that pump again down in the system, and then they tested it. They did some quick tests on it, make sure it was working okay, and it wasn't. It didn't pass its capacity check.
It failed.
It failed. So what you normally, and this is what a lot of equipment troubleshooting snap charts start out like. We installed it, we ran it, and it's broke. We really need to figure out where to go from here. And your next step is probably you'll go to your equipment guys and say, what do you think? And they'll probably come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that they didn't get the right answer yet, which is quite common.
Yes.
We go to the things we think is a problem, but we don't know where to go from there. So that's when you think to yourself, well, what other tools does TapRooT have that could help us with that? And for equipment troubleshooting, we have one of our tools in our optional techniques in our snap chart area is the Equifactor tool. And you can see we've got other tools here, but we're going to concentrate on this Equifactor tool. And to start a new one, what you would do is come over here and hit the plus, and it'll start a new Equifactor.
And just real quick, because that all kind of, it doesn't really stand out that much, he went over to these side left tabs that are under the optional techniques, and that's where you found it.
That's right. There's an optional techniques tab there that I went to. Normally, you'd be in this area here, remember, with our normal snap chart when you're building a snap chart. And when you're stuck, you can go down to these optional techniques, click, pop that open there, and then open up a brand new Equifactor table. Now, I've already started one just to save a few minutes of time here, so I'm just going to pop this open. What this does is it pulls down the entire set of Equifactor tables and populates it in here. And you can see across the top here the different types of tables that are available. So we have the equipment tables, which is the one we're going to concentrate on. But you can troubleshoot valves or, for example, components like bearings and mechanical seals, things like that. And then there's some electrical troubleshooting tables also. What we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go down through these different pieces of equipment, and down here is the pumps equipment. Now, like I always tell people, you probably want to have an equipment person sitting here while you're doing this piece, because you're going to have some questions if you're not the pump expert.
Right.
So you'll have the equipment guy sitting next to you, and you'll say, hey, we're troubleshooting a pump, and you click on that, and it's got several different pump types that are available to you. And hopefully your expert says, oh, that's going to be a centrifugal pump. You say, oh, okay. So you go into centrifugal pumps, and you pop that open. And this is just going to give you a list of symptoms of different kinds of problems you might see with a centrifugal pump.
You can have a lot of problems with this centrifugal pump.
You can really have a lot of issues. And these are the kinds of problems. Remember, these tables originally came from Heinz Block.
Yes.
So this is from his experience, the types of problems that he's seen in his career of problems with centrifugal pumps. So you would work your way down through, just kind of reading through. Did we have a coupling failure? Did we have impeller vane problems? And the problem that we actually ended up with, if you remember our snap chart, was low capacity. It wasn't putting out enough water. So you can click on that symptom, and it's going to give you a list of possible causes, things that could cause low capacity on a centrifugal pump. Now again, you're going to need your equipment expert sitting here next to you. And you're going to ask him, hey, could this have been a clogged suction filter? and your expert says, no, there's 3 pumps in parallel here, and the other 2 were fine, so it couldn't have been a filter here because it would have affected all our pumps. So you say, nope, that's not it.
So you definitely need their knowledge.
That's right. You can't just pull somebody in off the street who doesn't know anything about pumps to troubleshoot.
We could take them through a TapRooT investigation.
You could.
But when it comes to equipment,
you really need
going
to
to
have
want to
some
have that
expertise
expert.
in here. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. So, suction filter, we said no to that. We would ask him, hey, could it be a problem with the suction line? And maybe your expert says, no, it can't be that, so you cross it off. And you just work your way down through here, yes, no, anything that's a yes. So in here, I just picked a few. There's probably more items in here that I could say yes to.
So similar to a TapRooT type thing, you do yes or no.
It really is.
So over here to the right, what do we have?
So here on the right, I've got, for example, I picked the impeller could have been trimmed incorrectly or the wrong impeller installed, a small impeller. So you come over here, and I selected that by clicking on the check mark here. You cross it off with the X if you don't want that one, or you can erase it. That's a little eraser there. If you're not sure, just hover there. It gives you a reminder. So I'm just going to click on that again to make it a yes. And I've gone down through several of these, and I've picked, I guess, 4 of these possible causes that could cause this impeller, this centrifugal pump to have low capacity. So what I want to do is get these over to my snap chart.
Yes.
I want to add. Remember, the entire purpose of this chart is to help me build my snap chart.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is come all the way over here to the right, and this little condition symbol here, I'm going to add a condition. So I'm going to click on that, and then the next one down, I'm going to click on that, and then this one down here, I'm going to click on that one, and then finally down on this one here, I'll click on that one. Now what that did is it sent it over to my snap chart.
Just like that.
Just like that. It's magic. It's magic.
I like it.
What I'm going to do is just kind of get out of this table so you can see what happened here. And over here, remember this is the table we were just on, the snap chart we were just on. So here's our shapes, here's our optional techniques, the one we were working on. There's also a drop zone tab here.
Okay.
And those 4 items
are now
on the drop zone.
Just like that.
Just like magic.
Love it.
And all you've got to do is just kind of drag them over onto your snap chart. And it just puts them over, ready to go. Ready for you to start working your way and say, hey, it could be the pump rotating backwards, or it could be the small impeller, or it could be the impeller installed backwards. I don't know yet.
Right.
This is still part of my troubleshooting tools. And what I would do at this point is I would send this off to my experts and say, hey, go check and see if the impeller is installed backwards, or go check to see if the pump is rotating backwards. And you would probably want to have a really good troubleshooting plan here, because this rotating backwards is probably a lot easier to check than to see if we got the right impeller installed. I have to disassemble the pump to see this. This, I can look at the pump shaft and see if it's spinning the right way.
So maybe start with your easiest ways and work your way.
That's usually what you want to do. You don't want to take stuff apart if you don't have to.
Sure.
Yeah. So I just kind of cheated a little bit here, and I built another snap chart here. So what I would do is I would take it, and there's those. I put them in there so it looks nice, and made those little condition shapes here with a little dotted line around.
Under the correct
event.
Yes.
Yep, so that they all match up. And I'd send this out, and my equipment troubleshooting guys would come back and they say, we found it. This is what we found. We found that the impeller was installed backwards.
Okay.
So
now what do we do?
Now what do you do? So what most companies do now is they stop.
No.
That's what they do. They think to themselves, well, the impeller's installed backwards, so that's an easy corrective action. We'll just put the impeller on the right way this time. And they're done.
That seems really, really a little...
Real sketchy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So how do I know I'm not going to have the same problem later? And this is where the rest of TapRooT fits in. We are not done yet. We have just built our snap chart. The next thing we're going to do is start asking our normal TapRooT-y kind of questions. Was there any supervisors there? What kind of training did they have? And was there a procedure for this job? And these are the questions that you start populating your snap chart with. And this is going to sound suspiciously like a mistake, like a causal factor.
Right.
So these are going to be all the information that we're going to collect about this causal factor down here. And what your snap chart will finally look like will probably be something like this, where you'll have a causal factor and a bunch of information here about this causal factor, about the impeller was not keyed for proper operation, and the procedure did not discuss proper orientation of the impeller. So this is your normal TapRooT stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't stop here. My next step now is to open up a root cause tree and run
Run it
this
through
now
the
through the root cause
tree.
analysis. And we're probably going to find that this was not really an equipment problem.
Oh, okay.
This was probably a human performance issue. The mechanics made a mistake, and we are going to find out why they made that mistake by running it through the root cause analysis.
Because they didn't do it on purpose.
They didn't do it on purpose.
No.
In fact, they probably thought to themselves, in fact, for this example, you might find that the mechanic noticed that when he replaced the impeller, he put the new impeller on, that the keyway on it that was supposed to tell you which way to put it,
Right.
he thought the keyway was backwards.
Okay.
For some reason,
Just
he didn't think to flip the impeller over. He thought the keyway was backwards. So he pulled the key out and ripped it loose and then stuck the impeller on the wrong way because he thought he was fixing a manufacturing issue. And what he was actually doing was making a mistake. And what you think to yourself is, man, that's not very smart, but it's really
I can
easy
see
to
it
make.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He thought he was doing a great job here of fixing a problem
Right.
and moving forward. And what he actually did is made the problem worse.
Yeah.
So, but for good reasons.
Right.
So now we're going to go into the human performance.
Well, and a
goals.
lot of times maybe he did that because he did think that was the right answer, and it will save time versus going and hey, the manufacturer messed up this piece
Right.
of equipment and there's time off, da da da.
And maybe
But
the
now
boss-
we've got the time off anyway.
Now we do anyway. Yep.
So good to find the real reason.
It is.
So you don't do this
I mean,
again.
maybe his boss was yelling at him every day.
Yeah.
Hey, we need this pump up. We need this pump up. So he
Right.
was kind of, what do I do about it? Oh, I'll just fix this now.
He's
And
trying to be a hero.
He's trying to be a hero. He's trying to do the right thing. So this is getting back into the normal human performance kind of problems that you have. And now you'll end up with a snap chart, a root cause tree that will have some great root causes in here. Situation not covered. The procedure didn't cover how to properly put on this impeller.
So when you've come back onto this page right here, we're in the investigate phase, and down here at the bottom is where we're finding all of our.
That's right. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, I really ought to click on here and get down to the analyze phase now
Okay.
because we
There
did
we
our
go.
snap chart and we did our root cause analysis here. And you're just going to finish it up. You'll work your way down through that root cause tree and come up with some terrific root causes as to why this guy made this error. There's a couple other things to kind of point out that's kind of cool
Yeah.
on this. If you remember that Equifactor table, I think I still got it open here. This Equifactor table has a lot of cool stuff in it. But keep in mind that you can add your own pieces of equipment.
That's
in
what I
here.
was going to ask you. So what if the piece of equipment is not in here?
Yeah, so this is a really highly customizable list now. This used to be a lot harder to do, and then when we went to the new version of the software, this version 6, it's a lot easier to do all this. So I can add all the way at the top here, I can add new tabs in.
Oh, okay.
So I can add new categories of equipment up here at the top. And then under each of those categories, I can add new pieces of equipment and new subcategories. It really gives me a lot of options.
That is
in
a lot
here.
of customizing you can do.
Yep, a lot of flexibility. And you can add your own pieces of equipment in here. Have your equipment experts come in here and give you a hand with it.
Oh, that's great.
Um,
Because these were all based on, like Heinz, his expertise was in oil and gas?
That's right, oil and
Okay.
gas. Yeah, he used to work for Exxon. So what you see in these tables is kind of focused on the oil and gas industry, which covers a lot of equipment
It does.
for a lot of different industries. But it's going to be a lot of rotating kind of equipment.
Okay.
Pumps and compressors and diesel engines and generators and things like that, motors. So he's got a lot of that stuff because that's what the oil and gas industry uses a lot of. And if you have other pieces of gear, just add it in. Put
So
it
is
in
that
yourself.
pretty user-friendly for somebody to add something, or is that something we help people do?
They can do that
does
all
happen?
by
All by
themselves.
themselves.
I'm not gonna get
It's
too
always
deep into
nice
that
when
right
you don't
here.
have to call
Yeah.
to get another group involved. So
Exactly.
you can just go in and...
It's right in the admin section here.
Okay.
And when you go into admin, there's a section down here for I gotta find it here for
Equifactor?
Equifactor. Yep, and that allows you to go in and just add your own Equifactor equipment troubleshooting tables. Takes a second to populate, but
Okay.
you'll
Oh, I
just
see. Add
new
subtype, add
types, add
symptom.
categories. You can export these to somebody else's TapRooT software and import them back in, so you can trade these between
Oh, that's
TapRooT
great.
users. So it's got a lot of cool stuff in there. Very easy to build this, though. Very simple. And we do restrict this so that everybody doesn't have access to this. So when you set your software up, you don't want everybody at the company going in and playing with your
No.
Equifactor tables. So this will only show up to those that you give access to. So,
Perfect.
Yeah. So that works out really good. Probably the last thing that's kind of cool that we've done fairly recently, I'm going to go back into the investigation tab here. If you remember, we had our basic and our major investigations that you can do. And if I'm in major, if this is a major investigation, I'm going to open up this reference tab so you can see it better. That has that full 7-step TapRooT process. And Equifactor is kind of buried in here in steps 1 and step 2 of the 7-step process. If you just have a simple investigation that you want to do, but it has an equipment error, you can still go to basic. But Equifactor kind of disappears.
That's right. I forgot about that. So this is brand new.
It is. And what you can do is we put this brand new switch over here. It says go to Equifactor mode.
Perfect.
And you just click it over to Equifactor mode.
And there
it puts
is.
equipment troubleshooting in here. So you can access that via your snap chart.
Oh, that's great. So you don't have to be out in a major incident to do this.
Yeah. So that just came in the very last update to the software. That mode came in there. So something pretty cool that's also added in.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. So this is a lot of people don't recognize what Equifactor is. I had one of our customers come to a course one time, and he had been using TapRooT for a decade. And he came to one of my Equifactor classes and said, after the class, he said, I had no idea that all this stuff was built into this software. So
because it has always been in here.
It's always been in here.
Yes, it's always been in the TapRooT software.
Right. We don't necessarily teach you how to use it during a 2-day and a 5-day course. There's just not a lot of time to do that. But we have developed some courses to do that.
I was going to say, speaking of courses.
So we have an Equifactor course.
Yes.
There's a couple different options. Our main course, like we're going to be teaching at our pre-summit course, is a combined TapRooT / Equifactor course. And for those that have taken Equifactor in the past, this is different. It's a little bit different. This is giving you it's going to be just like a normal 2-day course, but it's going to use equipment examples, and we're going to dive into the Equifactor tables to show you how that works.
Nice.
So it's a really good way to learn both TapRooT and Equifactor at the same time.
Because sometimes right now we have people who will do a 3-day. We'll do 2-day TapRooT and then a 1-day Equifactor. And this may suit their needs.
It may. This could very well take care of that.
You want to talk to us and let us kind of understand what your goals are. And we can make sure that this is the right thing.
Because there's a lot of options. You may already have a whole bunch of people that are trained in TapRooT, or you have a bunch of EH&S or quality people who need TapRooT training, but they don't necessarily need the Equifactor training. So we can do a normal 2-day course and just add a single day of only the Equifactor piece for those equipment guys. So it's a lot of options.
In the past, you had to have at least TapRooT to be able to do Equifactor. So this is a really efficient way to take care of that. So, well, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. And there's a book.
And there's a book, yeah. It's at the printers. I heard it's just about done printing.
I'm so excited.
We're
gonna have a book release party March 9th through the 13th in Horseshoe Bay, Texas.
That's the whole purpose of the summit is a book release party.
Exactly. Well, Ken, thank you so much for going through that. I think this is something that is going to be really helpful for people. We talk about TapRooT all the time, but we don't get into Equifactor this much and actually run through and show people. Right. So if you want to know what it's all about, that you just saw it, forward this to your equipment people and let them see what we can help you all do. Well, Ken, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you all. If you want to know more, go to info@TapRooT or contact us at info@taproot.com or go to taproot.com on our website. There's more information. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. Like our videos, subscribe, hit the notification bells, all those wonderful things so you can keep getting all of this information we push out to you every week. And we look forward to seeing you back here next week. Thank you.
Bye-bye.